My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the director of UX at Red Argyle. I'm also running on Ritalin and caffeine this morning, so I'm going to be speaking quickly. I also have this book you can find on Amazon. Find me later. I have a couple copies to give away if you want one. First of all, thank you so much for being here after that concert last night, which was absolutely amazing. I'm still finding glitter on myself. You've seen this slide a whole bunch already. So I like feedback. If I'm good, tell me. If I suck, tell me. Just be kind. And then maybe you can get some free Starbucks. Okay, today we're going to talk about 5 ways that support neurodiversity by using the Lightning Design System as a tool to do so. So after this talk today, I want you to leave here understanding who you're designing for, how the Lightning Design System can help you make neurodivergent friendly experiences, and take away some best practices that you can put into, work immediately when you get home. And by the time I'm done talking, I'll have taken this messy experience portal page for people entering continuing education credits and turn it into something that's a little easier on the brain, is more clearly structured, and makes users think not nearly as much. And that means we're going to talk a lot about accessibility today. The great thing is that there are some rules around designing accessibly. It's called 5-way compliance. But how do we measure how accessible something is? Luckily for us, there are a whole slew of rules and guidelines that will help us do that. It's called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, more lovingly known as WCAG. And it's worth noting that there are 3 levels of accessibility, with AAA being the most strict, but most people go for AA, and today I'm going to be going for WCAG 2.2 AA compliance by the end of this talk. Section 508 is aimed at the federal government. Now, there's a new rule that happened from the Justice Department in April of this year, and that's aimed at local and state governments, and it requires them to make their digital things accessible as well. Now, my prediction is that there's only going to be a lot more rules like this in the future, covering a lot more industries. Accessibility is only the right thing to do anyway, so begs the question, is your org accessible? Let's talk about what CAG really quickly. There are 58 success criteria, and they're divided into 4 categories. They use this acronym called POUR, and it stands for perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Now, I don't know about you, but those categories aren't the most intuitive, those names, so I don't use those. I like to divide the criteria up into things that tell me who I'm designing for. So my categories are sight, cognition, hearing, interaction, and technology-related issues that people might experience. Now, when I give these talks, sometimes I touch on all 5 things, but more often than not, I focus exclusively on cognition because it's often the most overlooked category. And that affects neurodivergent people who have autism, ADHD, dyslexia, things like that. And it's often the most overlooked category, as evidenced by this overwhelming object detail page that scrolls like a CVS receipt, this overwhelming news page that's just as long with no organization, this form with too much empty space and not enough guidance, this confusing interactive class transcript, yes, that's interactive, this pixel ID knowledge landing page, and this form which we're using as our example today. So, who are we designing for? Fun fact time. 20% of the global population is neurodivergent. And as I said, I'm one of them. When we're easily distracted, have issues with short-term memory, and process things more slowly than other people, and we rely heavily on predictability, you can imagine the kind of experiences we have with the pile of websites that I just showed you. Now, of those 20%, 92% of them report having issues with concentration and short-term memory. Now, that's basically all of them, right? So let's do some unofficial math. Remember this number. Okay, so when you take into account all of the people who experience situational impairments, like when the family has interrupted your train of thought for the 15th time, or your coworker comes and pokes their head over you through the wall again, that number quickly jumps to 100% of the global population struggling with memory or concentration issues at some point in their life. Which means designing accessibly benefits everyone, surprising. 5 areas we're going to cover today to make Salesforce a better experience for neurodivergence and everyone. Include things like being predictable, not forgetting mobile, having a less is more mindset, giving help at the right time, and being consistent. Specifically, how do we design to accommodate those of us with focus issues? Let's use this example of core design as our guinea pig. This is one page in a long form where you enter in continuing education, credits or units or whatever they call them. And there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and sure, there are sections and columns, but there are also an awful lot of buttons everywhere. At least they look like buttons. The hint, they're not. Humans rate top, bottom, left, to right. So let's try that for a second. So at the top, we've got almost at the top, we have our step bar, progress bar, but there are buttons above that. So let's get that problem out of the way first. The stepper, the buttons are on above the stepper on every single, here we go, page, and they include the CEU handbook, the FAQs, the portal guide, and the CEU portal tutorial. So we're going to put that under the navigation where it actually belongs. So that's a little less cluttered. If you didn't know, clutter is really bad for neurodivergence brains. We're a little messy, I know. But we need to know where our eyes should go at any given time. And I need to know, I don't know, where I am and what I'm doing. So page title sure would be nice. For a title, let's put in entering in continuing education units. And programmatically, that is the H1 tag, and there can only ever be one H1 tag on any page ever. So that means if you have text that isn't the title, then you need to be bigger than the title. Make use of the size variables that the Lightning Design System offers you on a different tag so that you have the visual you want and you're not messing with reading order. We want to follow up with some second level headings, ensure that select the CEU type and enter details. They were already there, but they weren't very prominent. Not only is proper text hierarchy great for neurodivergence, it's also great for screen readers because, remember, people can be neurodivergent and blind at the same time. Now we have a little bit of a better hierarchy. Let's work on trivia. This is where we group like items together, and yes, they were already grouped with those second level headers being like the dividers there. But remember when I said that not all the buttons were actually buttons? Okay, so select the CEU type categories under main contributions, education, professional development, and alike. They were actually tabs disguised as well. But luckily, like the design system has tabs component, one that we're probably pretty familiar with, one of the more familiar ones. A quick sidebar, if you haven't moved around with the fictional files for the things with Lightning Design System, it is absolutely fantastic. It makes prototyping go so much easier. Chef's kiss is the person who actually built that. If you haven't played with it, go do that already. Go do that, please. All right, now there's a place for big buttons with real tabs, and I know what to expect now. A button could have opened the mobile or taken me to a different page. But with tabs, I know that the content underneath is going to change. I'll be on the same page when I'm set. Remember, we need to know where we are at any given time. We also need to know how much more of the process we have to go through. How long are you making your users sit in front of the form to fill it out? They want it. What I like about the Lightning Design System is that it gives me a whole bunch of options to tell people where and when they are in the process. So we have the progress indicators and bars, both vertical and horizontal. We have the path, which I hope everybody is familiar with, and a bunch of progress notes that can help indicate that as well. Now we have a horizontal indicator. I think we can chunk things up a little more, so we put the vertical progress indicator in the left sidebar and the rest of the form is on the right. The last thing in the area of predictability is use good visual cues. People have been on the internet for a long ass time now. They instinctively recognize certain things. Checkboxes are square. Radio buttons are round. Do not mess with that one. When we have brains that process things slower and they rely on predictability, it's best to stick with an if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mindset. So, for instance, the field length here should visually represent how long answers are expected to be. In the top right, the input is asking for the number of class credits. The number is supposed to be from 1 to 40, but that field is 4 this wide. I could put all the sentence in there. So make that input as short as you can, like in the bottom example. Button groups need to have a visual hierarchy as well. The 3 buttons on this form are back, save and exit, and save and continue, and they are all designed as primary buttons, or in the Lightning Design System, we call them random buttons. So what you want to do is emphasize the most important actions and then set that emphasis down as you continue through those buttons. There are a ton of styles already in the Lightning Design System. Thankfully, that helps us. So we can turn this button set into one brand button as the primary action, which is save and continue. One neutral button as the secondary action, and then one base button as my tertiary action, which is save and exit. Links, friends, should be underlined by default, not on. If a user messes up, they need to understand that they messed up immediately. This example where the input has a red outline and some red arrow text underneath it, that's okay. That's not bad. But neurodiversity is things that are very obvious, and thankfully, the Lightning Design System makes it very obvious for us by giving that input a light or background. That's awesome. And if there is a component that would normally have data in it, and it doesn't have the empty, you need to have some kind of empty state notification. Otherwise, it's tend to think they're broken. And if we think it's broken, we think your brand isn't as professional as it should be. So instead of only showing like the table header if there was no data, show a message that tells the user that there isn't any data yet. For instance, here we tell them she hasn't uploaded any files yet. That first section was really long. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Don't forget to design for mobile. It can inform your design decisions in unexpected ways. Everyone forgets mobile, it seems, with Salesforce design, and more often than not, I'm always told people only use desktop. I challenge that. When you design for mobile, Lightning Design System documentation is going to come in really handy. Make sure you know how components are going to reflow when you look at them on the phone. For instance, tabs. Out of the box, when you view tabs on mobile devices, it turns into this. It's a component that looks like an accordion, and that might work really well for what you're designing. But for our example today, let's look at that. When you choose a tab on the phone, it basically swipes left and then shows you the choices underneath that tab. And this is how neurodivergent brains are going to think through this. If I choose one, can I still go back to another tab and also choose something over there? And I know it's radio buttons. These radio buttons are intended, the other ones are tabs. So if you think of it like that, maybe tabs was not the best design for you in the first place. So what if we use a simple pick list instead? It's a more widely recognized pattern. You choose one item in the pick list. You see choices after that don't really like the word means. And it's one screen, it feels like one screen, it does not feel like two screens. There's less confusion. Next up is the whole concept of less is more. One of the worst things you could do to a neurodivergent is overwhelm them. So please put a lot of thought into when and how to notify users of alerts, news, updates, things like that. I've had clients do this. They have a whole bunch of alert banners across the top, and when you log in, you are immediately presented with no, it's fun. Again, I'm going to bring you back to Lightning Design Systems documentation. And there's a section called Design Guidelines. Under notifications, you can find best practices about what kind of content should be in the notifications to begin with, how to design for priority, all kinds of things like that, so please go read it. Next up in less is more is progressive disclosure. Totally my favorite. Instead of putting all of the input fields in front of your user all at once, keep them laser focused by only asking for the one thing you need to make at that moment. And once the choice is made, display the next question or questions that is related to that answer. And keep going that way until you've guided the user all the way through to the end of the form. Keep them focused and not overwhelmed. There are many ways we can help our users in the spaces that we create. However we do it in the right time and in the right way. Let's talk to tips and popovers first. two are almost the same. One is activated on the cover and very basic, and that is a tooltip. Classic example is when there's an info icon under inputs. When you cover, you get help. Okay, in this example here, where we're asking for a training provider, you hover on the info icon and it says it could be a store. Right, to be clear and concise in your tooltips, they're awesome for unlabeled icons throughout your work. Do not take up the list. Do not put a novel in a tooltip. And for the love of all that is good in the world, do not put information that is critical for the user to complete that task in a tooltip. So if they're going to do a password, and your password requirements are in the tooltip on cover, when they go in to enter a password, they lose all of the guidance for that password. Right, popovers are activated via tap and click and have actionable items in them in tooltips. And mobiles had a baby, this would be it. If you use a popover, users can still interact with the things on the page while still seeing the information in the popover. It's great for onboarding, it's great for features and guidance like that. It's a quick and temporary help. And what you don't want to do is give too much help. You do not need a tooltip on every single input that you have. You don't. More often than not, you can take advantage of the support text, which is part of inputs in the Lightning Design System. And remember, neurodivergents have short-term memory issues. Once that tooltip is gone, we forget what it said. And just like we forget why we want you to the next screen portrait. One more in the help area is let's talk error messages. All too often, I see the same error message on every single field, and it's always vague. It doesn't tell you what went wrong or how to fix the issue. So for credits field, I talked about earlier, instead of saying complete the required field text, tell them what's expected, a number between 0 and 40. If you have a website field and the user enters in the wrong format, don't tell them invalid format. Tell them the format that they should use. Error text must start with www dot is way more effective. Now, and last, but by no means least at all, is users rely on consistency, especially those with concentration issues. We rely on predictability, and that's not just consistency of colors and fonts, which is automatically taken care of when you use a design system. It's also about consistency of brand voice, consistency with the patterns on your public-facing website, consistency in form field labels, in icon usage, overall structure, in expected behaviors of mobile links, how the submit button acts after you press it. So when everything is consistent and predictable, and when you add in all of the other things that we've gone through this morning, you'll have a more accessible, neurodivergent-friendly Salesforce experience overall. You can take something like the CE portal page and turn it into something that is not just prettier, because that's not what we do. You've got something that makes your users not have to think. So, feedback. Remember, I like feedback, whether good or bad, just be kind. And then you get some free stuff. Everybody likes that win-win situation. And if you want to nerd out with me afterwards, meet me in the back. We can talk about accessibility, all that fun stuff. And we can talk well, if you want fun. But that's it. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, everybody.